Hey y'all, it's Days of My Shamanic Life, messages from Mother Nature and Spirit for you. Today's message is for the Virgo New Moon until the full moon, and it was really, really interesting. So in my journey, I went down into lower world and I was walking. It was at night and there was this beautiful full moon, and it was coming down on me, and as I'm walking along I see a path to a temple, and I go inside and there's a very traditional Greek sort of bath, and there's all of this water, and I go in and I see a maiden there, a virgin, the Virgo, and she comes towards me and she's crying. I see that she's crying, and the water represents emotion, and as I'm going to her through the water, I ask her, what's wrong? And she tells me she's crying because she wants to be able to serve. She wants to be able to serve people more. She cares so much about other people and their suffering. She wants to be cleansed herself, and she wants to help them be cleansed. And so then she took me, and she's right in front of me, and she reaches into my solar plexus and she plucks something out. And then I see that it's chained, and she plucks something out of my heart. They were both connected, and she was telling me so often what blocks our solar plexus, what blocks us from shining, because the solar plexus is where we feel the will to show up in the world, to show up as who we are. So often there are so many blocks to that. In our world, we're taught to make ourselves small. We're taught that we're not good enough, and we carry these. Oftentimes, these are things that we carry from when we were children. And so we carry these, and it's not just a stone here against our solar plexus, it's also against our heart, a stone against our heart, and how much we can love ourselves. How much can we love ourselves if we're not willing to show up as who we are, right? The proof is in what we do, and if we're not willing to show up as who we are in the world, how much then do we love who we are? Because we love who we are when we're most authentic, when we're most ourselves here. And she was showing me, she put me in front of a mirror. She said, see, it's not that you have to change anything to be perfect. I want to help you see that right now as you are, you have everything it is. So many people think of Virgo as a perfectionist, as the one who's always looking at details and being very analytical. And it's definitely true, very organized, etc. But it doesn't come from a place of criticism. Maybe that can be in a lower sort of vibe. But from a higher place, that comes from a place of love, out of wanting to see the best in ourselves and in other people. And not coming from a place where we're harping on someone and we're saying, this is what's wrong about you, but instead saying, this is what's beautiful about you. Can't you see? When we don't have these blocks in our solar plexus, in our willpower, and here in our heart chakra, it's easier for us to see all of these things that we are. And then she led me away from the mirror into this room, and she was showing me that for this time period, what we can do, what she's helping us to do, is to take inventory of our lives and see what is it that really serves us in all of these dimensions of our being, and culling those away, taking those things away, removing them, and really doing so in accordance with the highest vision of who it is that we want to be. She was showing me, we go from the mirror into this place, and it's sort of like a hallway, and there's all these different doors, right? And she spreads out this blank piece of paper, and she tells me to create my dreams. What is it that I want to have? What is it, actually putting it out there on a piece of paper, and really going into detail about it. And because you need to focus, and you have to have this vision of the future to be able to see in the present what it is that really serves you and what doesn't. Yes, you have to allow for a certain amount of surrender and allow for a certain amount of just things to show up. But it's also too, for any sort of arrow, you have to point it in a direction. So what direction is it that you want to go in? She's asking us to get really clear first on what direction we want to go in. What is it that's our larger vision? And then using that to go into these different doors. And on these different doors, I see 5 different doors, and they have different names on them. Mental, emotional, physical, spiritual, and then funnily enough, relationships and money. Like, it was literally like relationship / money as a different door. And we were going through each of these doors, like into each of these rooms, after I had made this whole beautiful picture. Then we go into the first room, which is like the mental, and like, okay, what is it that needs to go away, right? Like, what is it from the past? What are the habits? What are the things? Da, 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 da. What is it that supports my future vision? Right? This is the future that I want, and this is the room that I have with the stuff from the past and the stuff in the present right now. So what is it that I want to get rid of? So in this way I can create this. Right? So we do that through each room, mental, physical, spiritual, etc. So we go through, we take like literally an inventory, like she's got a checklist, we're writing shit down, and then we're getting rid of the things that we don't want, kind of doing like a whole sparks joy, like through each thing, and just really being rid of it, being done, and letting it go. And then taking all of that stuff, right, that stuff that we accumulated that doesn't fit anymore, and letting it go, going to the water and letting it go. And she was showing me the importance of non-attachment. So often what we are is we're attached to these things that we want to let go of, and that's what hurts more than the thing. It's the attachment. It's the desire for something that didn't happen. It's that mourning. It's that grief for something that we've lost. We think that we've lost, right? But these aren't things that we've lost. This isn't a loss for us. This is just saying, I don't need this anymore. Let me put this over here. Let me let it go. Let me make space for something new. And I could see in this new space, I was like, oh, it was like having a window then. Like, oh, and now I can see. I can see this vision that I want to have through each different door. So this is what this Virgo New Moon invites us to do. So to accomplish this practically, this exercise, and then at the end of the journey, she was showing me like all these different things, like literally like, like not just the window, but like this is the future that can be. You just need to work for it and work hard, she was saying, but mostly to do it without attachment and to look at yourself with love and grace as you do it, not to blame yourself for the things that happened in the past, not to think that it was necessarily a mistake or that you're bad for doing it, just things that happen. Shit happens, and you can acknowledge it and let it go. You don't have to keep holding on to it. So practical exercise for how to do this. Get out a piece of paper, draw, maybe write a song. I don't know, whatever it is that is your creative expression, to write your dreams out. Your dreams in these different realms, right? So mental, emotional, physical, spiritual, and then relationship / financial. Interesting that those were like blended together. I thought so too. I didn't ask any more about that, but like, what do you want each of these houses, your future houses, to look like, right? Like, what does this vision look like? And all these pieces, right? What does it look like them working together? Because it's one thing to say like, oh, I want to have like this amount of money, I'd like to make like $2 million like a month. Okay, well then like how realistically is your life going to look then in these other areas, right? You have to typically work a lot to make $2 million a month. So, but thinking about like this larger vision of what you'd like to create, right? And then literally like sort of going through an inventory of where you are, like right now, mentally, emotionally, spiritually, physically, financially / relationship wise. Where are you now, right? What is your history then? Where are you now? Then what was your past? Anything that you're kind of holding on to that comes up, when you go into these places. Not necessarily issues, but just like you're taking the temperature of where you are and where versus where you want to be. Right? So you have this vision of where you want to be, you have this where you are, and when you see those things very clearly, then you can bridge the gap. Okay, then what steps is it that I need to take? So go through, all these areas of your life, like literally do an inventory, write a list, right? This is where I want to be, where am I here? This is where I want to be, where am I here? Okay, cool. So there's some gaps here, right? So just what's the next step? What's the next step for each thing? You don't have to have all the steps fucking figured out. You don't have to have the whole fucking thing. You just need one thing. You don't even need to have the one thing right now. You can make it a practice. Maybe like I'll work on like this, like da 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 for like this amount of time, whatever. But just what's the one step? What's one step that you could take to get you closer to here? Go through, do that inventory in these aspects of your life, start implementing it. Start making processes, start cutting away the things that block you from doing it, and start making the structure and process and organization in order to make your dreams come true. So, I hope this serves you, gives you a little bit of clarity for the Virgo New Moon. If you like, please subscribe below. Follow my hashtag too, Days of My Shamanic Life. You can find me on Instagram, catalyst.charlene. And if you'd like to book a session, if kind of going over these things in the past, things come up or you don't know where to start, you find it hard to look at yourself with compassion and grace, please reach out. You don't have to do this alone. And I know in the personal development, as you start going along your journey, sometimes it can be very disorienting. You can feel very lost and you can feel very alone. And because you weren't meant to do life alone, you can always have a hand to hold and someone to shine a light for you. So if you need one, please reach out. Hope this serves y'all. Peace.